The moment froze like a crack of thunder in a clear sky, a ragged beggar girl lunging forward, her small hand knocking a silver fork aside, her eyes wild with terror as she silently warned a billionaire not to eat what was on his plate. The room smelled of polished wood and expensive food, and everyone who saw it thought the same thing at first, that this was madness, an interruption, an inconvenience that would be quickly erased by security. But something in the girl's face, something raw and desperate, cut through the layers of wealth and indifference like a blade. That single instant would unravel secrets, awaken buried pain, and change two lives forever in ways neither of them could have imagined. Before the story carries you any further, take a moment right now. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of compassion to change lives, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your small action helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. The billionaire's name was Adrian Vale, a man whose life had become a headline long before his soul had time to catch up. He owned skyscrapers that pierced clouds and companies that printed money faster than most people could spend it. His days were measured in meetings, mergers, and deals sealed with handshakes that never reached the heart. Years ago, when his mother had died in a public hospital hallway because no one noticed her breathing had stopped, something inside him hardened. He promised himself that money would be his armor, that power would ensure he would never be helpless again. But armor, worn too long, becomes a prison, and Adrian had been locked inside his own success for decades. The charity banquet where everything changed was meant to polish his image. Cameras flashed, glasses clinked, and speeches about generosity floated through the air like rehearsed prayers. Adrian sat at the head table, smiling automatically, barely tasting the food prepared by chefs flown in from across the world. Outside, just beyond the gates and velvet ropes, the city told a different story. Cold sidewalks held people curled into themselves, hunger gnawed at children's stomachs, and hope was something you rationed carefully. Among those people was the beggar girl. She was called Lena by the few who knew her, though most passed her without seeing her at all. She was 11 years old, small for her age. Her hair always tangled no matter how often she tried to smooth it with her fingers. She had learned early that the world did not stop for tears. Her mother had died of untreated fever 2 winters ago, and her father had vanished into the fog of addiction long before that. Lena survived on instinct, on watching patterns, on reading faces. Hunger sharpened her senses, and fear taught her when to run. That night, hunger had led her near the banquet hall, where discarded food sometimes found its way into the trash. She slipped inside through a side entrance left ajar by a careless staff member. The warmth wrapped around her like a stolen blanket, and the smell of food made her dizzy. She kept to the shadows, eyes scanning, heart racing. Then she saw the plate at the head table. Something about it made her stop. The food glistened under the lights, but there was a faint, wrong scent beneath the richness, a sharp chemical edge she recognized too well. Weeks earlier, she had watched a stray dog convulse and die after eating something laced with poison behind a restaurant. Survival had burned that smell into her memory. Lena didn't think. She acted. Her body moved before fear could stop it. She rushed forward, knocking the fork away, her face pleading without words, warning without sound. The room erupted in gasps and shouts, but Adrian didn't hear them at first. He stared at the girl, at the terror and certainty in her eyes, and something old and forgotten stirred in his chest. Security seized her almost instantly, dragging her back as guests recoiled in outrage and confusion. Adrian stood up slowly. The room hushed. He looked at the plate, at the fork on the floor, at the girl struggling in the guard's grip. For a moment, he almost waved them away, ready to dismiss the incident as nonsense. Then he remembered his mother pale and unnoticed, and how no one had listened when she needed help. He raised a hand and stopped the guards. What followed unfolded like a slow, motion collapse of certainty. The food was tested, poison was found, panic rippled through the hall. Someone had wanted Adrian dead, and the girl everyone had been ready to discard had saved his life. Cameras captured the chaos, but they could not capture the way Adrian's hands trembled or how his heart pounded with the realization that a child with nothing had given him everything. In the days that followed, the story exploded across media outlets. The billionaire saved by a beggar girl became a symbol, a headline, a viral sensation. But behind closed doors, Adrian faced something more unsettling than public attention. He could not stop thinking about Lena. He ordered his staff to find her, not out of obligation, he told himself, but because sleep refused to come otherwise. When they did, they found her where the world had left her, on the street, wrapped in a thin coat, still watching, still surviving. Adrian brought her into his world carefully, awkwardly, like a man handling something fragile he did not yet understand. Doctors checked her health. She ate until she cried because her stomach had forgotten what fullness felt like. She spoke little at first, her trust a slow, growing thing. Adrian watched her from a distance, unsure how to bridge the gap between their lives. He had solved billion-dollar problems, but this quiet, wounded child challenged him in ways spreadsheets never could. As weeks turned into months, Lena began to change. Color returned to her cheeks, her eyes softened. She started school, though she struggled at first, unused to routine and rules. Adrian, too, began to change, though the transformation was less visible. He started visiting shelters anonymously, listening instead of donating and leaving. He learned how easily people fell through cracks and how rarely anyone reached down to pull them out. The armor he had worn for so long began to crack. But the past does not release its hold easily. The investigation into the poisoning revealed enemies, betrayals from within Adrian's own circle. Trust shattered. Lawsuits followed. Stress mounted. One night, overwhelmed, Adrian found himself standing alone in his vast kitchen, staring at a plate of untouched food. Lena wandered in, unable to sleep, and stood beside him. She did not speak, but she looked up at him with the same steady gaze she had that night. In that silence, Adrian realized something profound. He was no longer alone, and neither was she. He made a decision that would shock his board and confuse his advisors. Adrian began selling assets, redirecting wealth into foundations focused on children like Lena. Children who survived on the margins, unseen and unheard. He didn't just write checks, he showed up. He listened. He learned names. The man who once measured success in numbers now measured it in lives changed. Lena grew into her laughter. She discovered a love for drawing, her pictures filled with color and light, often depicting hands reaching for each other across impossible distances. Adrian framed her drawings and hung them in his office, a daily reminder of why he had chosen this new path. Their bond deepened into something neither had expected, a family forged not by blood, but by choice and shared survival. As the years passed, the story faded from headlines, replaced by new scandals and sensations. But its impact rippled quietly outward. Shelters expanded. Programs flourished. Children who would have been lost found support. Adrian's enemies faded into irrelevance, and the poison meant for him became a turning point instead of an ending. Near the end of this story, if it has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this live and breathe through your engagement, and your support helps keep them alive. And before the ending, here is a special request just for you. Please comment below what kindness means to you, or how a single moment changed your life, because your words may inspire someone reading them today. On the anniversary of that night, Adrian and Lena returned quietly to the old banquet hall, now renovated into a community center funded by his foundation. Children's laughter echoed where once there had been silence and fear. Adrian watched Lena help a younger child with a drawing, her patience gentle and unforced. He felt a swell of gratitude so intense it brought tears to his eyes. He understood now that he had been saved twice that night, once from poison and once from a life empty of meaning. The beggar girl who had warned him without words had given him back his humanity. And as the sun dipped low, casting golden light through the windows, Adrian realized that true wealth was not something you guarded on a plate, but something you shared, something that grew the more you gave it away.